Hello! What's up? What's up, bots? Cavers? Everybody hanging out there. I got my coffee. Welcome to the Game Cave development blog. This is where I just keep talking about this thing I'm just making forever and ever called Game Cave. Just gonna continue on making it. We're never gonna release it. We're just gonna keep making it. It's not true. It's not true. So we got some stuff today. I'm gonna show you some Maya updates on Game Cave visual novel development, and then when we get done with that, I'll show you some further progress I've made on the magazine and some other stuff. So to join me tonight to talk about Game Cave visual novel development will be Jam Artsy, Jessica James. Jess, how you there?
Hi, everybody.
Hey, you're there. So, let's go into here really quick. So you've been working in Maya for, I think, about a month now since we last, a little over a month.
Yeah.
And let's bring this up. Let's go to here. Awesome. And then I will expand this out. Alrighty. So this is Briar Bay. Right now I'm streaming from Discord to your computer, so we're looking at your computer. This is the central location where Game Cave takes place. This right here, so this is going to be a mountain. It's like this mountain carved out like a pumpkin, and the city's in there, and this is like the port side part of town. So this whole place is this is called Briar Bay, and then the city in here is called Fort Jacks. And then there's Port Town and all this other stuff. So, what have you been doing? What have you been working on so far? What progress have you made?
All right. I replaced all these towers, so they're all updated and cohesive.
So before we were using, before about a year and a half ago, we made one called Butter Bay. It was a much bigger part of town, and I switched the location and the story for a bunch of reasons. And we had made a version of this model. Really, you did. And since that time, you've gone through and made more modeling-friendly models. Would that be you know what I mean? More structurally designed low-res models. So you had to replace a lot of the existing architecture with the new models, is what you're saying.
Right.
Right. Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah. All right. And then for the last few recent months, I've been working more on the buildings. So we have like towers and canyons, and we have pumpkin props, and we've got long buildings.
Yeah, so so what you've been doing is, we went through a style guide, and I pulled out a bunch of images from things I like and I want to mesh together. And one of them is a series called Dofus and Wakfu, and if you aren't familiar with them, they have an amazing design style. And I'm like, well, somewhere between that and Final Fantasy Tactics and Solo to Robo and Mario World and Disgaea is like Game Cave. This is a blend. So what you've been doing is building a bunch of base buildings that are actually built, halfway? So each one of these buildings is kind of like a half model, and it's instance. So you're building half or quarter of the model that the computer's then duplicating, and then you have a separate set of buildings off to the side, and these are all referencing those original models, basically, right?
Right.
Right, which is just a production-friendly way of working. And then what I've asked you to do, because one of the things, folks, is as I trained in Maya, and I got taught how to use, I went to an art school called the Art Institute, and I was supposed to go to a 2D animation curriculum because I wanted to learn how to be a 2D animator, not to be a 2D animator, but to become a better artist. And to me, the best artists in the world are 2D animators. If you know anything about 2D animation, if you can do it well, you're fucking amazing. Unfortunately, about, 6 or 7 months into my curriculum, they got rid of that and then made everyone 3D. They're like, hey, 3D is the future. I'm like, thank you for telling me that in 2000, and it was a 2002 or 3, somewhere around there. I was trying to avoid that. So they shoved me into a Maya class and then 3D Studio Max. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. luckily, and it went on that way for almost a year until a website came out around 2003, 2004, late 2003, early 2004, called digitaltutors.com. They've since gone, but they had these intro to Maya classes. Make a pod racer. It was a CD, a DVD, 4-part DVD. I bought that, and it actually taught me how to use Maya. To the point where I knew Maya better than most of the people in my curriculum. How crazy is that, right? Because they weren't teaching us how to use shit. They would just open up a program and start making things. Like I didn't understand lathing and sub-D surfaces and none of this NURBs and polygons. They were like, well, you just do whatever. Long story short, so I spent a couple years doing that, and I would spend all my time making low poly models, low polygon models. And I would just open up an image scene in Warcraft, because World of Warcraft had come out, and I would take some snaps and I would just rebuild half the building, because I realized everything in Warcraft was built in half, because you could see every building in World of Warcraft was symmetrical, right, Jess? Right.
Yeah.
And so I would only go, wow, I only have to build half this building, and then I could get the other half, and I could study the polygons and reverse engineer how that stuff was built. Then I ditched 3D. Eventually, Brandon had signed up to help me model, and the whole time you were helping Brandon to use them. Basically, you were doing Brandon's work for him. And at some point, I'm like, let's just omit Brandon from this process and just work directly with you. Now, Jess, you also went to the Art Institute out in Phoenix, and they didn't teach you Maya very well at all either, right?
No, they started me on 3ds Max and then got rid of the program. So I only got about 6 weeks of learning.
Mm-hmm. And so I sent you the same tutorials that I had learned from, right?
Yeah.
Now I have a copy of 3D Max I won a long time ago at SIGGRAPH, so I installed it on your system so you can use it. And after those initial tutorials and then me directing, this is an actual direction where you do some stuff and I go, well, that's horrible, do this. And over the past 18 months, you've been able to very competently at this point go through, and I think you've learned the art style, the chunkiness, the way we want things to look. How you've learned how to instance stuff. You've learned how to do the difference between NURBs and the low polygonal modeling. It's all pretty fucking amazing as far as I'm concerned. And so at this point, I'm able to just say, hey, go off and now lay out these buildings according to this floor plan, and I don't have to do it. So while you're doing this, I can go off and make the magazine and this other stuff, right? And so you have been, at this point, you've taken these buildings and now you are laying them into the city. Is that correct? Like actually placing them in there? So what do we have to look at now?
Yeah. So I started with this little corner, just trying to see how it's laid out. We've got bridges. I started expanding because we're going against the wall now. So I kind of started laying those out right here. So started laying those out, trying to see how they would fit with levels and stairs.
Yeah, I could tell you right now that these ledges parts will have to have an extra add-on piece. They're those width so they connect to the bridges, right? These archways here. So we need an additional piece that can attach to extend out, right? Because walking right there is not enough space. Like if you, yeah. So I can tell you that right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But that looks good. I mean, and just in terms of just trying to shove stuff in there and say, hey, it'll kind of flow like that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, just trying to figure things out. Placement.
We just need some bigger distance between the front of the building and the rail area, basically.
Yeah, I'm not sure how far you wanted to go out. Kind of thing.
Yeah, something more like that.
It's hard to tell.
About that distance, yeah. So it's easier when you shove a person there and then you select the person as a camera and then look out and go, well, you know what I mean? Like, how much space is that?
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's what I would say. I would say it need to be about that much space right there across all of them.
Okay.
So like the one towards if you go to the left, See how like it's super thin right there? Now we don't
Yeah,
need a
that's fine.
building like right the upper rail. If you go up a level, you have that building in
Mm-hmm.
front of the stairs. Yeah, so if you go there, you don't need you don't need anything like that right there. It can just be open because that could be like park area, and we can put trees, little what do you call
Mm-hmm.
arches and stuff like that. Like I can put all that stuff in. So don't stress about it. Yeah. So it would just need to come out a little bit more, about the same distance as that other piece.
Okay.
Yeah. And then yeah. So that's looking good.
Yeah. Let's see. So since we last talked, I started creating different buildings. Like there's this one looks a little different,
Mm-hmm.
and
And those look similar to
this.
some of the bay shapes we're going to use for the game cave shop too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, once you start using the same buildings, they start looking all the same.
Yeah, well, that's fine. That's fine. So, how many base buildings do we have right now? About
Uh,
7.
yeah. Probably
Okay. How
7,
many more were we planning
8,
on building out?
8, 9. I think we have. I think we have 10 right now.
10 right now. So that new one that you did, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying do more exactly like that, but that design style, the way you worked out the shapes and everything are perfect.
Okay.
So if you build some more buildings following those architectural um, shapes and everything, like that feeling, then you're good to go. Uh,
Okay.
However many more, I mean, what you basically do, right, is you start laying out buildings and you go, well, it starts to look a little too much. And then you go, I need one or two more. That's basically the way I work, like I kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, I get a certain amount, I start shoving stuff in to like my layouts and I go, oh, that's starting to be a little too samey. And then I sort of add, so instead of me saying, hey, build 10 more buildings, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And these are modular too, so you can mix and match a few, you know. All
Okay.
right. Yeah. So feel free. That's all looking
Yep.
about right. And then you built the lengthier ones over there to the left?
Yeah. So we have some longer ones. I only made a couple because I'm not sure how you wanted them.
Right.
But we
That's
got a
fine.
tower. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's looking fine. No complaints there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, don't worry about so much the tower placements, because what I want to do
Mm-hmm.
is get all the base buildings in, and then we're going to shove towers around according to aesthetics. Like there are additional things. So my idea is if circle around to the center of the city. So in the center, where like a candle would be, if this were a jack-o'-lantern, will be the central city. It's an actual castle. That's actual Fort Jacks. And that castle will go up to the center of the pumpkin to the very top and out. In the center will be these arches that come out similar to the front of the port where you have those different, um, yeah, it'll go through the center and then they'll arch out and hang in like chandeliers basically. Yeah. You have that piece of concept art I sketched over showing you too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been following that. So you know where we're going with it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Looking good.
Thanks.
And then those those base towers.
Mm-hmm. And I used the canyons off the ship, Jolly Dagger.
Right. Do some design consistencies.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They could probably be a little chunkier.
Okay.
Those stones on the top, like I want more. Yeah, they could be a little thicker around those. Like if you look at the
Like,
chunkiness of those rocks at the top, or the little, what do you call those, rook pieces and stuff, and like the thickness on. So if you go to the far left one, yeah, so you can see it's a little thin. That
yeah.
inset that needs to
Okay.
be way thicker.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's too thin.
Okay.
And then yeah, so just thicken those things up. Maybe
Okay.
double across all pieces.
Okay.
Yeah. We want thick, giant, blocky, chunky. Because if you zoom out a little bit, you want to be able to read it from a big distance. You know, it gets a little,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay.
But the shape of and the design of them are fine. It's just some of the thickness. Same with the cannons. Like if you look at the cannons, there's that inlet piece. So zoom in on the cannons real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So the outer lip area, yeah,
Yeah.
that rim could just be a
Mm-hmm.
thicker. If you could just bring it in, so it's got like a chunky. Just imagine it's like a cannon, you know, like so that's the reverse thruster, I thought, or however we did the one. So it should look more.
Mm-hmm.
What's the word I'm thinking of? You remember bullet bills in Mario Brothers? There's those cannons they shoot out of, like the Mario pipes have that
Yeah.
thick edge, like them, like
Yeah.
that. Like I'm just thinking something a little bit more. The rim
Okay.
of that shouldn't be so thin.
Okay.
Yeah, and that would be about it. But the design of them are fine. And some of those, this we're gonna want some of those stone pieces to go around the edges of these two. You know, like the rocks. Remember the concept art I sent you? There's like those chunks of rocks that we want to be able to
Gotcha.
shove
Okay.
around there because they're gonna go around. If you zoom out, they're gonna go around some of these base areas near the water, right? They're gonna be built like into that
Okay.
kind of stuff, and we're gonna want some easy chunky rocks. And you can use those from grab some other pieces we've already done or you've already done inside. Uh,
Okay.
does that make any sense? Like,
Yes.
hope so.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the part where I'm like, I know how to lay out the city pretty quickly, but I'll fuck up your model doing it. So I don't like that's why I was like, you're gonna have to, because the last time we did this on the original Briar Bay model, like I was able to lay a bunch of stuff out, but that wasn't helpful to you. Like, like I was just duplicating, and then we had like what 72 billion polygons being rendered. So it's a little bit more tedious this way, but long term, I think it's better for the model.
Yeah.
So just those adjustments, and those are good. Good to go.
Okay.
Anything else?
Let's see. So I'm not sure if you wanted stairs or ramps. They had different kinds. I'm not
Mm,
sure what these layers were for.
mm-hmm,
Um, but you
mm-hmm.
would be able to manipulate them. You can go longer, taller.
Yeah,
I'm not
good.
sure what you wanted to do.
That's a good question. Well, obviously, I don't. No one would take a giant stairwell like that, you know.
Right.
So that's a good question. Like how? I can always sketch stairs in, so don't delete those stairs.
Okay.
Keep them, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But I think aesthetically, like if you just zoom out a little bit, seeing the ramps makes more of an artistic uh, similarity to the way the arches work with the towers. There'll be a
Mm-hmm.
similarity between that and the arches. Like there's these. The way I've sort of imagined it is that you have again it's a chandelier idea where you have a core
Mm-hmm.
center and these arch chandelier bits that branch out. So those would be very similar to that
Okay.
idea. Yeah. So save the stairs, but we'll figure that out if we need to add here and there. But I think the arches will make more sense. Now,
Okay.
in terms of like, now that arch right there, that like, how, if you have to manipulate it to arch upward, right? Like how
Yeah,
is that a big pain
it
in the
goes
ass? Not a
upward.
big pain, right?
No.
Yeah, but that's who would walk that? Like no one could walk that.
Right. So then you kind of have to make it longer. Um,
Right. Hmm. You know what? That was well. That probably works too. Find out something that's a little less vertical. Right now
okay.
it's going a little less vertical. And if they have to
Mm-hmm.
really stick out to do it, can you make a midsection that can like a curve piece? Like when you get those when you're designing a city street, like when you get those remember those old Playmobil did you ever play with those like play car sets where you get like the track pieces.
Yeah.
So we need like a turn. We need like a couple
Okay.
turn pieces to put in the center, like modular, that could turn one way. So it could turn and then angle down,
Okay.
right? Because they're all going in one direction right now.
Right.
Yeah. And then the center of it seems to point down. Like go to a side profile of that arch. See it's bumping down.
Yeah.
Those all need to be archy. It needs to not do that. And I can see
Right.
them on the walls too. If you look on the walls.
Yeah.
So are they instanced or is those multiple different ones?
Th- they're different ones because I was trying different
I see.
edits with them.
Right.
Um,
So they need to be more archy, and then we need some turns, right?
hmm
And then maybe on the base, wherever it hits the actual ground, the base, it can fan out more. Like you ever see like those when you go down the steps, like when somewhere that's really
Yeah.
it fans out like at Disneyland when you walk down some steps and it kind of fans out a little bit,
Right.
like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we can have a couple of those, then we can even make a point where it kind of goes up and it can cork around. There might be a way to create a couple pieces that
hmm
allow us to create some spirals of some sort, or not some spirals if that's too complicated. We some very basic, just adjustments for turning if we wanted to walk
Yeah.
around and curve. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
would work on that next, so we can get that out the way
Okay.
immediately. I'd put that on the number one thing to do.
Got it.
And it might be a case where that part that fans out is where we can put some steps just on the base,
Right.
you know?
Okay.
All right. What else? Because that one right there, that stairs that's completely vertical, that's mean. No one would walk that.
I know.
It's like the hell road to, you ever seen some of those Tibetan temples out of those fucking, what was that one from Kill Bill where she had to walk up the fucking stairs that are almost completely vertical? Yeah, that's no one, who would want to do that? That's evil.
I know.
Yeah, that's never going to work. All
Uh,
right.
and that's it.
All right. So the first thing to do is let's fix those arches. And
Okay.
then how many more base buildings did you have to model? Did you plan on any more or?
I think I need some more flatter pieces if it's gonna fit under a level
Right. All right.
from because they have a lot of points at the
Right.
top.
And remember, I want this
So.
to be pretty symmetrical. So whatever
hmm
is built on the left gets duplicated to the right,
hmm
vice versa. You know what I mean? So you shouldn't have to lay out the whole thing. You only got to lay out half.
Right.
Yeah. So whatever you need, those base buildings, can you mix some, or do you have to actually make new ones? You think?
I can mix them.
Yeah.
It'll be easy.
Because the only thing I want to like spend in terms of modeling new buildings is if you need some lengthier ones, or if we need, because we're gonna need some specific castle pieces for the
hmm
upper areas of the castle and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I really just what I would like to do in between now and the beginning of July is let's just get the whole city blocked in. The only thing that should be left to do is modeling Game Cave and any new pieces we might need for the castle.
Okay.
And yeah, because I don't think I'm looking at what you have there. I think there's a lot more variations you can make
hmm
from pieces we already have.
Right.
So come up with the grip of those. So here's the thing. First one, the arches. Two, make a bunch of variations that you need over the next 2 weeks. And then when I get back from E3, we can look at those and approve those variations, and try them
hmm
out different areas so you can use them. You know what I mean? Don't just
Right.
be random about it and go, these I think these work, and then I'll just look at them and go, yeah, that's great. And then just after that, just focus on blocking everything in. And if it looks a
Okay.
little off, I don't care if it looks, don't worry about the tower pieces right now and the arches, right? You can give yourself some space between some of the buildings to account for that because you know how they work, But let's
hmm
just shove all the buildings together Because sometimes on some of those buildings, I'm going to want to like, once I see them together, I'll be like, let's double this one up here. And if it all starts to look the same, it's fine. It doesn't, every video game you've ever played, like the buildings are all the same.
Right.
It's really largely irrelevant. I'm more interested in getting all this stuff put in as soon as humanly possible. So you're not noodling it. And then we'll go work those castle pieces around. And then the last thing we'll do is, or the next thing we'll do. So what I want to do is, see, that's July. I want to be able to start modeling Game Cave mid-July at the latest.
Okay.
So.
Mid-July.
But based on what you did with that new building, I'm 1,000% confident it's not going to go. Yeah, because that looks perfect. Everything you did there is 100% perfect. So just keep doing that. See, Brandon likes to say, "Oh, you don't know how to give compliments." No, I do. That's when you follow fucking directions. You follow directions really well, Jess. I really appreciate that. You know. And folks, let that be a lesson to you. Whether you feel you have enough talent to do something or not, if you follow directions and you're pleasant to work with, you will always find employment. Now, I'm not employing you, but you will always, I can guarantee you, based on all these techniques, I mean, if someone said, hey, we got some freelance work for low poly modeling, do you feel you could take the work?
Yeah, I think so.
And you couldn't do that a year ago.
No.
So, always, what do we call that in the military? We train to fight. And I hate to use a lot of those military puns, but basically what that means is when we're training under combat situations. Anytime I do a commission, anytime I work on a personal project, I always operate at the same level at which it would operate on a professional level, whether I'm being paid to or not. So that when the work does show up and it does present itself, that what I've been doing transfers right over with the minimal amount of hassle as possible. There's always some kind of fuckery to deal with, but yeah, no, that looks absolutely perfect. Those little mini towers we're gonna have to replace though. Those little mini ones. I think the ones that I made before, right there,
Mini
right there.
tower.
Yeah, that little mini one. Those are towers. That one right there, your mouse. Yeah.
These ones? I thought they were trees.
No. No, those are
Okay.
mini. Those would be some giant trees.
All right.
So no. I like where they're at.
Okay.
We just need to create a super tall, the dunce hat version of the current tops you have for the other towers. So those tower tops you have on in the port town? We need a version of the same proportions that I'm currently using here, but with just the top hat and a base. We don't need all the little mini pieces.
Okay.
It's just a base and that, I call it the top hat or the witch's hat, whatever you want to call that.
Okay.
Yeah, so it needs to be super tall, squat with the rim of the hat, and then one tower piece going down into the water.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Because this used to be a military fort back in the day. So those would just be various supplies. Like, when you walk around Disneyland, there's always like those janitor places that are kind of tucked into something that looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's just where they would go in there and be able to, pull out the supplies to clean things, or if there was a fire, stuff like that. So, and it adds to the whole castle-y kind of feel.
Right.
It's more of a design aesthetic. All right, so I think we're pretty good there, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what to do? You clear?
Yeah,
Clear on
I
that?
got it. Wrote it all down.
All right. Aren't you looking forward to be done with this stupid model? Like,
Are we ever going to be done?
no, yeah, we really will. Like, I know it feels that way. I know it feels like again with this, but no, I'm 1,000%. This is actually the idea that was in my head from the beginning. But it's hard. It's hard when you're a one person trying to figure out an entire universe.
Mm-hmm.
Things move slower. So, yeah. All right, that's it. That's all I got for this. So let me go back to here. Jess, where can people find you on the internet to follow your development?
Well, I'm Jam Artsy on Instagram. That's where I post mostly, but I'm also on Twitter. Um,
Yeah, and her links are below, so do follow along.
mhm.
She shares. Just make certain you send me the renders when you go to share stuff so I can also share them.
I will.
All right, that's it. That's it, Jess. That's all we got for you. Thanks for hanging out, and I will now take over from here. So that's all I got for you. Just thank you, and then I will see you later this week for E3. You're going to show up and help out with some stuff, right?
Yes.
So, yay. Thank you for that. Big thumbs
All
up.
right.
Love everything, Jess. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody. So that's what's going on. So that's going to be used for the visual novel and all the story-based stuff moving forward, as well as in Game Cave Volume 1 in terms of just purely showing off what Game Cave is and like source book material and stuff. So I'm going to quickly show you what I've been doing with the magazine. Let me open up here. Game Cave. Guide Year 1 thumbs. All right. And I will share my screen now. Okay, so this is an overview thumbnail layout for the sourcebook material and the first era of Game Cave in the Game Cave guide. This is shrunk down to 835% of an actual spread so that I can design at a low res, increase these thumbnails up 835%, and then plop in all my high res assets. This allows me to design everything together. And if you come here, I've been retooling the entire look and color. So I got the actual color scheme for Game Cave. Their colors are purple and gold with this tan subset of colors, and then some black and purplish. And you can see I've given it this sort of like sort of Super Nintendo style layout. Game Cave kind of has more of a Nintendo-y feel to it, and that's very intentional because I've been working on an actual game magazine called Megavisions, and they're entirely Sega, so I wanted Game Cave to be more of a Super Nintendo feel. So I've worked on a little bit of those elements on the Super Nintendo box into Rad's the guy who owns Game Cave, into his design aesthetic. And if we go here, you can see this is my roughie for the cover art and the logo and everything, and this is how this will look. So this is the actual cover layout. Then you'll have an intro with contents and what it is, and then we'll have the world map, a locations page, the Game Cave shop plus the Jolly Dagger, and then the history. So pretty simple. Now these are going to be the layouts for TMNT2, Street Fighter 2, and Battletoads. These right now are what I like to call the templates. These are selectable, neon, very basic, and you can start to see I've built a base intro page. I'll have a character page, and then I'll have the actual review pages that sort of change depending upon each game, and they get a little bit more complex as the years go by. These are all going to be, all the games are going to be laid out in historical order. So TMNT2 on the NES came out in 1990, and then Street Fighter 2 Arcade came out in like 92, and then Battletoads was around 92, 93. So these are all laid out historically. As such, the magazine would have gotten a little bit more refined as it went along too. So let me show you quickly here. Let me turn off to give you an idea. The TMNT2, in terms of the layout of all the details, are set in stone. Character art is work in progress, and I got to do all these character dialog boxes next. And I got to make this right here will be the wrap up, and then the review score will look like a treasure box. So the original Game Cave Era 1 had a whole Warcrafty kind of RPG feel, where Rad had this idea that Game Cave itself, how do I say this? Like he sold a universe where it's like the theme is castles, so there's King Rad and Queen Bacon and Princess Nessa. So this actual layout will take place in a cave where there's a treasure, and then this layout will have like let's say some of the castle lands, and then there'll be the actual background design template will have a castle motif for the third bit. But I need to go in and make these design templates that are selectable so that as I move forward in life with Game Cave and I go to make a new layout, I can just quickly plop in screens and do roughies and make these all selectable. So, and then this is where some artwork, the artwork gallery will go. All the artwork, these pages that'll have artwork, is stuff that Rad has added to the magazine for the purposes of this collection. So the Game Cave guides, the volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4, whatever, are excerpts from Game Cave magazine that Rad's collected. This is special art made for each issue. So that still needs to be colored. Again, this is all low res, 835% shrunk down from actual high res. And that's so I can design these so that they're consistent. Now I went through and I was able to structurally create, so each era, this era is based off of Nintendo Power. And in Nintendo Power magazine, around the first 50 issues or so, they were very strategy guide driven. And so they would explain the game's premise. They would show off the characters and the moves. And then they would do these walkthroughs like level maps. And I initially laid out, I'd sent an email out and got permission from Video Game Maps, vgmaps.com, to use their maps. But the problem is I have a limited page count for each game. And in Nintendo Power, each one of those games would be like 12 pages long per game. So even when I try to take a level, say stage 1 from TMNT2 or stage 2 from TMNT2, and I try to put it on a page, it would be too small for any kind of meaningful, it ended up too tiny. So I had to come up with another way to have a character and moves list and a bit of a walkthrough, but I also want this my goal is to have a conversation in the review about a game between two characters. There being a walkthrough is just me trying to incorporate one element from the Nintendo Power era of magazines into the Game Cave era. Because I'm fucking nuts, folks. All right. So my solution to that, after many trial and error, was that I have these rotated screens, which came out of the Game Fan era of design, where they would take screenshots and kind of rotate them and paint layouts of screens. And I did it for a Street Fighter II layout that is in the original Kickstarter. I took that idea here, made them hanging from chains in the layout, and then I actually made it a walkthrough. So these screens are actually a walkthrough the entire first level. And then there'll be little additional dialogue bits added around it to explain what to avoid. So I was able to create a walkthrough in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, or 13 screens of the level without actually having to do like the classical maps and stuff. And I still have plenty of room, you see here, for these conversational pieces. Yeah, and these screenshot borders I've created here too along the way. These are duplicated, so these will be different screens, but then kind of build off that motif as well. So, and a tremendous amount of bullshit thought goes into this, folks. You know? I don't know why. It's just, that's what happens, you know, sometimes. But I was able to go back and then create these templates and then create a design consistency across the layout. So here's the character. So intro page, which will stay the same across all three because I have to have a life. And then these character pages will change per game. So it's the 4 turtles plus some moves. Here will be the original 8 world warriors plus some moves and a stage. This will be the 3 main Battletoads, basic story, and moves list. And then obviously enemies, because I think you can only control like 2 Battletoads at any given time. And then each one has sort of a slight variation on the conversation piece. This will just be rotated screens since there's no real walkthrough on Street Fighter. And then some bonus stage material and bonus bosses and stuff. Here will be a walkthrough of the Battletoads levels. To get an idea what that looks like, I've already basically plugged in some stuff I had already set out a couple years ago. So here's some basic character art pieces I did with the Copics and basic screens and stuff I plugged in for Street Fighter. And then here's these rotated screens I did initially for the Kickstarter. So I was able to reuse, I'll be able to reuse this stuff from there. The background will all change. I'll have the cave motif. And then here I'll plug in again. You can see some of these bonus round materials and stuff like that. And then screenshot borders. With the Battletoads, it's based off one part of this, one part of the Street Fighter, and then together you get this new layout is the idea. So back to a walkthrough. There'll be a one-page bonus area for the Battletoads Game Boy. So I'll be able to talk about that. And then here we'll go this Battletoads tribute piece I made, which Rad made specifically for this. The Scratchcraft logo will not be in this. That's just temp art for now. I have to take that off that piece. And so I've been doing that while simultaneously, now folks, you need to understand, I have to earn a living on top of all this. So I've been doing concept art for gaming. I've also been I've taken on art director duties for Megavisions magazine. Megavisions are the people that I've been working with the past year and a half. I've been drawing all their cover art. All the cover art for Megavisions that I've been doing for the last 6 issues are going to be in Game Cave. So I was able to somehow, if they needed cover art, work it into Game Cave somehow. Miraculously, I managed to do a lot of that. But to give you an idea of how I've been cross developing these projects, so this was, these are final layouts. So let me scale down. Let me go to an initial design. No, not that. Well, I'll just start here. So this is all of the final pages I've done for Megavision's summer preview. It's going to be out in 2 weeks. Scaled down to 575%. It's a different percentage ratio. I've designed the whole magazine at this scale, increased the resolution, and then I've produced this magazine for them based on that. How this factors into Game Cave is that this design look is what Game Cave eventually becomes. This is the final look of Game Cave, basically, minus the character dialogue bosses, which was this old-looking magazine that now is based around new games and retro games. So I've been able to take the look of Game Cave in Era 4 and make that into a magazine that will now ship every other month on a Patreon. They're going to have a Patreon launch. I've been working on all the graphics for that. So you can see this. Now you're like, well, great, Rob. You've been making another game magazine, but you're now doing Game Cave. So you know, one of the deals I have struck with these guys was that in creating this stuff, you guys will be receiving the high-res PDF, not physical copies because I don't have that kind of money. But you will receive the high-res PDF, you backers, all the guys that backed the original Game Cave, for these issues until I ship Game Cave. So you'll be getting a magazine that I've basically made regardless on top. So that was the deal. But it's the best I could do, folks. It has been nice to be able to work on this and then come back, and it's helped me to balance things out. So you know, this is the preview issue. This is 36 pages. Each issue of Megavisions will be 64. 6 of those pages will be Game Cave. I've been developing a basic template for that. I can show you guys a rough idea where I'll be able to take the cover art page. I'll make a cover art page using the artwork from this layout, and then put the entire, this is an earlier version, but I'll be able to put all 5 pages of the review in plus this. So it'll go in the back of Megavisions. And I'll be able to promote Game Cave that way. And being that Megavisions is largely based on Sega content, I'll be able to put other games or Nintendo kind of things into the Game Cave. And I've worked a lot of old school Sega design elements into this magazine, from the grids and different little textural elements and schematics. So that helped. And these colors of RGB. Sorry, when I talk a lot, I get a little burpy. Something I'm trying to work on. I don't know why that is. Maybe I'm not breathing enough when I talk. But I took this RGB format, which I initially had for Game Cave. I was going to make each section red, green, blue, purple. But I needed to come up with colors for the store. And the more I thought about it, given that I want it to be in a monster world, which is Gravenstein, I came up with these purple and gold colors. And so I was able to go back through, recolorize these, and unify this design scheme with the Super Nintendo style stuff and the purple to gold coloration because of the work I did here in contrast to it. So one project helps me finalize the decisions. Let me tell you something, folks. Whenever you're directing things, if you're the person in charge, your biggest job skill set is to make decisions. And I know it seems very simple when you go, well, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do that. It's not really making a decision. You have to make very calculated decisions, and you have to understand your project top down from a global perspective. And you have to know how one thing fits into another. And if you don't fully understand all of these elements, when you start making haphazardly based decisions, like I'm just going to do this now and I'm just going to do that now, like willy-nilly, you're going to end up with a fucking horrendous final project, final bit. This reminds me of one of the rumors that have gone around, like the directors, the original directors of the solo films, Chris Lord Miller. They said they had a hard time making decisions on set. And I was really thinking about this a lot because I think that makes a lot of sense. You have to really understand how everything. It's so hard for me to put into words, folks. I believe that rumor 100%, and I think the kind of decisions that they had to make were knowing what the final product was going to be, and if they were creating something new that really wasn't Star Wars, it was kind of this new thing that was going to be kind of a comedy / heart. If they were trying to make a new version of Star Wars and they didn't know what that final result was going to be, they were just going to try to do a bunch of stuff and then kind of put it together in the editing room. With a project that complex, probably should have made a 2-minute version of it completely before they started the movie. And that's a lesson I took away from Game Cave. Like, in game development, they call it a vertical slice, where you take a little sliver of every element, animation, gameplay, sound design, and in a week or two, they put together this vertical slice of the game to see how it works, and what does that feel like. And based off that, they adjust and then go make the game. That's definitely something. I should have sat down and designed a version of Game Cave that was 1 page of Nintendo Power, 1 page of Era 2, 1 page of Era 3, or one spread, so 2, 4, 6, 8 pages. You know, I should have made a test for each one and figured it all out before I ever pitched this fucking thing. But I can't go back 4 years ago and figure that out. So with this, I did an initial set of thumbnails based on what I had been doing in Game Cave and was able to make a production-friendly magazine, basically, from it. And this is about 2 hours every day, plus some weekend time. And then while I'm doing this, I'm going back here and doing the thumbnails and refiguring all of this stuff as well. So one project informs the other. All the retro look, everything. Man, guys, you know, I will not lie to you. This has been like going to college, a master class. My ultimate goal of Game Cave is to produce the fictional stuff. I do not want to make a game magazine every month with Game Cave. I want to produce the fictional story. The game magazine things will be once a year or so. I'll have 4 pieces of fan art that will go with these layouts. So I'll just do one era each. An era 2, an era 3, an era 4, which we'll get more into as I go along, with a piece of fan art that can get collected together, and I can take that sort of thing and put it together into a piece that is either printed or goes along with, you know, funding the visual novel or converting the visual novel into a webcomic. I'm still developing that process. So what's next for me? What's next for me is this week I go to E3 with Megavisions and stuff. I have brought on board to help me finish writing all the game review pieces Trey McIntosh. Trey McIntosh is a writer who helped me out initially with Game Cave, but he wrote a bunch of stuff I can't use because it was a different project then. He came on board 2 weeks ago to help me do these reviews again, written from a perspective of, all the reviews had to be written from the perspective of when they came out. So you have to write a TMNT 2 review as if it were 1990. A Battletoads review as if it were 1993. You can't be like, well, when I was a kid, this game came out. All these things. He has done that. He's already written TMNT 2. He's finished Street Fighter 2 and Battletoads. They're all done. And he's moving on to Era 2. This week, I will take those reviews and rewrite them in the characters' voices. While I'm there, I should be able to get through TMNT 2, Street Fighter 2, and Battletoads. And then right when I get back, I'll immediately I'll plug in that text, figure out the character sketches I need for each character, and get the character art done for TMNT 2. And then I'm going to color the April art for that, because this section needs to go into Megavisions issue 7. One of the reasons why I put Game Cave in Megavisions was so that it pushes me to finish this. I need to have, you know, it needs to be right, but it needs to be done too. So knowing that goes in issue 7 means it's pushing me to make decisions and move forward. And so that's what's being done. And I'm so tremendously thankful for this process. Has not been easy, folks. You know, it just hasn't. I mean, I would, if I could go back in time and undo it, I really, 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 really would. But here we are. And so the easiest way through this is to go through it, you know, and to be smart. So how am I being smart? Well, I'm only making one title page that will get reskinned for each game. The character pages are not the same, but they're consistent in tone. All these conversation pieces are pretty consistent. I only come up with one style. See these screens, how they're rotating like this? The exact same thing for Battletoads. Later on, I can make a new one, but I don't care. So I've compromised on certain levels, but nothing that sacrifices quality. Same with the title bar sections will all be purple and gold across the entire issue. So that motif stays. Yeah. And the world map and the world locations are going to require some finagling. But that's the last thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to get through this. I hope to have all of Era 1 done sometime in July. That's the goal. And then to move on to Era 2, Era 3, Era 4. They get easier after the first one. So what I will do is build one game straight through on Era 2 because I already have my thumbnail designs for that. If you remember, and I can prove it in case of you've forgotten, we can go to Era Test. Where's the... Oh, that's Mega Videos. Let's go to Game Cave. Game Guide, Era Test. So I did those initial Era tests. Let's see if I can open with Acrobat. No, doesn't want to open. So these were quick, down and dirty templates I made for Era 2 for Game Cave. I'll open up in a second. I'll scale back down to thumbnail level. Because I designed them at print level. And these are based off old, it's one part Game Fan, which was a magazine in the 90s, one part Gamers Republic, which Dave Halverson created Game Fan. When he sold that and had a falling out, created another magazine called Gamers Republic. So the layout look is a cross between Game Fan and Gamers Republic. It's kind of cyberpunky. The 90s were kind of all about, jacking in and cyberpunk, and it also tied to events that were going on in the world. There was actually a VR world at the time, and so this sort of reflected that as well. These are super rough. So I'll get these plugged back into the thumbnails and get that going, and then we can move on to Era 3, which I'll open these up really quick, which are based on Play Magazine, which was the magazine Dave did next. I followed Dave's stuff. I didn't even know who Dave Halverson was until Play Magazine, but I didn't really pay attention to his name much until I ended up, around 2005. I really was like, who fucking keeps making them? I started noticing all the magazines I liked were made by Dave Halverson, and then I ended up working there. So this is taking these old ideas and running them through Play Magazine kind of like layouts. And then we get to the final era of Game Cave, which is similar to Megavision's, where it's kind of a lot of duotone images and wrapped around nostalgia. So it's a cross between Game Fan, Nintendo Power, and a sort of simpler layout. So it's a blend of all four, basically, pared down to cool little controllers and stuff like that. But these are all based off old layouts. So, and then I never have to do this much fucking shit for Game Cave ever again. But that's it, folks. So it has been an hour. Thanks for hanging out with me. Really appreciate it. That's what's going on. So what does that mean for you guys? You will receive the Megavision Summer Preview when I get back from E3. You'll have access to that. And then issue 7, 8. Until I ship Game Cave, you will get all those higher res PDFs for free. Once I ship Game Cave to you guys, then I'm going to take a break from that for a little bit, but I'll probably recollect Game Cave. I don't know if I'll ship it before or after. I'm trying to get you guys stuff first. If I have the money put away now. All my freelance, by the way, has been going to... This is tough to admit, but all my freelance money that I've been doing is so that I can ship you guys Game Cave without having to spend any more of my personal funds. And not have to take another Kickstarter. So I need between 7 and 10 grand to get you guys books and rewards. And so that's 5 to 10 grand because there's taxes involved and shipping and everything that have changed since 2014. So everything I've been doing from freelance is paying for that. But I just one more Kickstarter to raise funds is just not, it's not something I want to do. When I do another Kickstarter, I want it to be for the project's done. Let's go make this. So that's what I'm doing. Hopefully this year, but we'll see, right? Because I don't know if you guys are aware, games are hard to make, and doing concept art is iteration and time, and it just sometimes there have been some weeks, man, I haven't been able to do anything on this, and then I get some time off where it's all I'm doing is this. So as I'm able to remove something from my list, there is some lull in between freelance, so that's one thing I can remove, and then Game Cave fills the void. As Power Prince finishes up, which is where that Battletoads art came from, and this Turtles art comes from, the April piece, and all the art in the magazine that isn't Little's characters comes from Power Prints. So you guys have benefited from that. And as that finishes up, I'm not doing another Power Prints, it's Game Cave. So as those things finish up, this becomes the focus and the focus and the focus. I really wanted this done before my 40th birthday, but I'm not gonna, kill myself. So to have that happen, but here we are. It's exhausting, folks. It takes a bit out of me too. I won't lie. This takes a giant, colossal bite out of my head to explain this over and over again, but I have done it. That's it. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I really appreciate your patience and going with me on this journey through Game Cave, and where it's all leading, where it's leading next. And the story is what interests me the most. The universe interests me the most. The Megavisions guys have been around for 16, 17 years, so they're thinking long term with their magazine. That means I can make a magazine and get that part of my skill set out into the world, but then focus Game Cave on the story and the universe and all that. So I need to take a break and then I have to go back to work. That's what I gotta do. Again, if you have any comments or questions below, I will get back to you in about a week or two with JMRT, and we'll cover some more Game Cave development blog. Peace, everybody.